Hey y'all, I am working on switching out my Rio Samba rose in the front yard. I love this rose. It is my absolute favorite of all the ones that I have planted in my yard. And I've noticed a decline in the Rio Samba. And then in the last few weeks, it just kind of died. So I went out looking for another one. I found a replacement at Lowe's, took it off the cart that had just come in. They hadn't even put it on the shelf yet. It was the only one on the cart, and I was so happy to find it. So that's what we're going to do today. Just going to clean this little section up a little bit and get the Rio Samba in the ground. These little weeds really, really love this little spot. It's just a small little triangle that I kind of carved out, and there happens to be a sprinkler head right in this bed. Just to the right, you'll see it there. And so this spot stays pretty wet. I do suspect that moisture is what did my Rio Samba in. We are not used to getting very, very cold temperatures. And this winter, we started getting cold fronts in November. And I think because my sprinklers never got cycled off, because this is our dry season, so we can't just shut them off. Those cold fronts started coming in, and with the excess water, the rose was really just sitting in water. So I think that's kind of what did it. So I'm going to plant this new one a little bit high. I don't want to see the same thing happen with it. But if it does, then I'll know for a fact that is exactly what happened. We're now warming up, and it shouldn't happen again anytime soon. This Rio Samba was, I believe, almost 3 years old. So it's been here for a little bit. But this new one, if it succumbs to the same thing, I'll know that it's because of the water once we start cooling off sometime in the fall. I started digging this rose out, and it was a little bit harder to get it out than I thought it would be. I did not expect the roots to be so intense down into the ground here, but it was a happy rose. It bloomed profusely. I had to prune it, I don't know, two, 3 times a year. I would come out and basically just trim it back because it would grow so big, so tall. And I don't want it to be 5 feet tall sitting in front of my front door. So yeah, these roots were pretty tight. I had to get my husband to help me get this thing out of the ground. I chopped off quite a bit of the root system and just left them underneath there. I don't have time to be picking out all these roots. They'll decay, they'll just become a part of my soil. But I cleared out enough space to be able to put the new Rio Samba in, and it'll spread out and it won't pay any attention to those roots that are down there. The sprinklers did run this morning. There's not a whole lot of standing water down here, although when I did dig pretty deep just to check to see what was going on down there, there was a little bit underneath, but there's not a ton. So I am convinced that it's just the amount of water that was sitting in the bed. It was just too much for the rose. It wasn't drying off as quickly as it was used to drying it off. So it just couldn't drink that much water, and it just started to die. So, like I said, I'm going to put this one in the ground, same spot. There's no disease going on with the rose, so I'm not worried about that. Just going to set it in the same spot. I'm just going to set it a little bit higher, and then I'll come back around and I'll mulch to make up the difference. All right, so I've got this thick layer of mulch spread down here. I'm going to finish pulling out the rest of the weeds and I'll show you guys what this thing looks like. You've seen it a million times. It's just a shorter Rio Samba. We're starting all over from the beginning. A little more mulch, a few more weeds, shuffle a couple of rocks around. Every time I turn around, there's more weeds. Y'all know I don't ever try to get all of them out, but I do try to tidy them up a little bit. I actually don't mind seeing the weeds coming in. Um, if weeds are growing, you know your soil is alive. You're not getting a bunch of weeds if all you've got is crap. So I'm okay with seeing the weeds coming up. I leave them. I pull them as I need to. But other than that, I'm not driving myself crazy about them. Just step on them and keep it moving. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. And I look forward to hanging out again in the next video. See you later.